Hello, everybody. It is I, Claude Bawles, and it's very much. I was touched to start a show because I went to go on Missing Bod's show, and it was just finishing. Obviously, a very late night show, and it had some of the Proverbs guys and Dan Missionary Position or whatever on. So I'll just start the show and see if people join me, in which case we'll have a show, and if they don't, we won't. Hi, Maud. Hi, Maud. Yes, I saw your show and I thought, I just had a few things to do, so I did them, and then it was only about 10 or 11 minutes. So I take it you were interviewing Mr. Berlin. Um, was he playing a violin? Violin? Oh, no, that's bad. Um, I must not descend to the level of Kent in terms of my jokes. Speaking of which, did anybody see the poor comedian that was on Dinosaur Adventureland? Um, so, Dinosaur Adventureland, he had this comedian called Carmen Valone. Um, an American guy, and sure, he probably wasn't the best, but his jokes were definitely okay compared to Kent's. Anyway, but he just got zero reaction. So he's telling all these jokes, trying to be funny and laughing. And of course, I think the least thing an audience can do, if it's mildly amusing, is to have a bit of a laugh and cheer them on a bit. And often that gets things going better. But honestly, it was just dead. So he'd make all these punchlines and nothing, no feedback, not even a titter, not even a titter ran round the audience. So this poor guy was on there for half an hour, virtually talking to himself. I did actually feel sorry for him. I mean, might not have been the best, but you've got to start somewhere. And when you've got such a brain dead, is probably the kind way of putting it, brain dead audience. And even afterwards, Kent sort of just, it was just as though he hadn't even been there, sort of gave him this cursory thank you, I suppose, and then went straight on. So, oh dear. Oh dear. So, Missing Mod, you've got a headache. Oh, that's a normal excuse, isn't it? I've heard that before. Yeah. Um, okay. Well, that's all right. It is late at night, aren't you? See, where I am, it's only just near midday. Okay, so I think you guys are in the early hours of the morning. Um, yeah. So, Robin, you obviously up late. Robin in the comments. So yeah, so that was I've if I haven't already, no, I have. I've put up the some bits of the comedian on the Kent's Hovnd show. Just honestly, you will feel sorry for the guy. He's doing his best. He's doing his best. Goes to Dino Land as this free show, and they couldn't give a toss. Oh, nearly midnight for you. Well, you'd just be getting going now, Maud, wouldn't you? You're a night owl. Oh, Dan's in the audience. Oh, that's good. So, um, anybody's welcome at the show of the Claude, and we can talk about anything. We can talk about, or for example, Sandra. If you're out there, Sandra, come in, come in, come in and speak to the Claude. Yes, open invitation anytime. We won't mute you, we won't boot you, and we definitely won't shoot you. So, no boot, no shoot, no toot. Yeah. Anyway, uh, yes, that's the one rule. The comedian's name was, and it's on Kent's Valone. I don't think he's well known, put it that way. Yeah. He said he's called his son Provolone. I mean, he was doing his best, but it was strained. Yeah. So, yes, absolutely no mod. I mean, I'm glad that you've reminded me of my biggest rule. There is no cursing and swearing on this channel. We have one topic at a time. Yes. And everybody else goes first so that I can swipe them down after they've made their point and they don't get a chance to come back and rebut. Have you wondered why Kent says, everybody's welcome to debate me. You go first. Well, that's because he's better off. He's better off to have you going first, and then he can rebut you, and you don't get to come back. So it's not doing you a favor. It's him stacking it to his advantage. So, oh dear. So I thought Truck Driving Billy did a very good job. If you haven't watched that, make sure you watch Truck Driving Billy's show, and it's basically about Kent's letter that Kent wrote to himself as, pretending to be Cindy, and then he puts up Cindy's reply. But he's very good, and he makes some points. For example, in the letter Kent wrote, he says, I would like to visit your place. You've done great things there. Well, how does Kent know that? What's he doing going near Cindy's place? It's so sort of stalking. It's just creepy, and especially with someone who's got a non-association order. Just keep away, Kent. Leave it. Keep away. Or better still, what I think you should do, just pay back the money. If you did that, I'm pretty sure that Cindy, or I could perhaps even try and broker a deal, just pay back the money. Don't give her a check. You have to bank transfer because your check probably would bounce. 130,000. Now that's less than you got out of her anyway. Give it to her and let the whole problem go away. So, yeah. Yep. So that's what I think. Yeah. Anyway, but he did a great job of that. I've been a bit naughty putting up little clips, some of them in text, some of them slightly out of context, but I've had a bit of fun. Yeah. Yes. Well, that's it. Actually, all she asked for, Bod, was that all she said in her was that she would like a bit of an apology, and she would like him to pay the money for her medical bills, which wasn't a huge amount of money. It was, if I'm just guessing, $800. It was nowhere near the over 100,000 that he took from her. So I think she's trying to be reasonable, but Oh, you like the one where this could have been yours? That's wicked. Cindy, you blew it. This could have been yours. He waves this wedding ring, the one that was Sandra's. I have to say, I do like how Bawles referred to it as we just like her. She's like the camp mother, and this will be the forever, ever, Mrs. Hovnd. Well, that was a bit of a mistake. Yes, Billy did a video. It's his latest video, and it's really good. Half an hour. I strongly recommend it. And he's a very reasonable person. He does point out one or two things about, which are also honest. He's just speaking about how Bowlen fell out with Cindy, and he says it was all over the fact that he built a substandard building with a 6-foot ceiling. Who builds a 6-foot ceiling? Well, he wouldn't be, who could stand, a little short ass like myself could stand up in that, but many people couldn't. And even if you could, you'd feel him, a 6-foot ceiling. Anyway, they fell out after that. So they're all forever missing Maud. I mean, to be honest, then the only people we all different of us have marriage problem or relationship problems at different times, but he just so comes across as so holier than thou. And the other thing that Billy points out is that by his own admission, Kent really, by the things that he says, he's not qualified to be a pastor. you have to have a wife. At the moment, he hasn't got a wife. And why he does that, why he says this, is it because Kent makes the statement, well, if the unbelieving depart, you can move on to someone else. Now, unbeliever in the I'm getting my accents mixed up. Unbeliever in the Bible refers to an unbeliever in God. Kent twists that in the passage to being, if an unbeliever in the marriage departs. No, that's not the case at all. It's if you're unequally yoked. In other words, you have a wife that's an unbeliever, then yes, you can move on. Not just an unbeliever in the marriage. That is a complete twisting of the Bible. So Billy says, well, if you're going to do that, well, two can play at that. And we'll put up this bit. Yeah, so, yeah. Yep. I was hoping Big Bad Mama might come on as well, but I don't know if Big Bad Mama knows that I've got a show. I could try and flick him a message of some sort. I will. Because we're in full swing now. Yes. So that show that I watched wasn't Mod. That was an old show, was it? Can you say to? Yeah, I just. Yeah. 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 So that was an old show. I take it. Yeah. Oh well. We'll see. We'll see if Big Bad Mama comes on. Otherwise, I'm talking to myself. Well, I am reacting with the audience, so that does help. Right, here we go. I'm trying to do two things at once. If only I was a woman, I could. What is it? Multitask. Yeah. But I'm not a woman, so. Well, yes. No, by no definition. So my multitasking is difficult. Right, BBM is sad after my debate with some atheist. What is that about? You had a debate with some atheist, or did you? Did you get sort of slap him around a bit? Did you give him a bit of the old mod into the bod kick? The mod bod kick. It's a very famous kick. It's taught in self-defense classes all around the world, and particularly near the alligator-infested swampland of Florida, where you live. So I'm understood. You're the new Hovnd, says Missing Mod. Well, yeah, that was all right. You're the new Hovnd. Well, I believe that they're lining up. Now, Kent, in his recent show, said he was going to live to 100 or die trying, which is a joke, of course. But he isn't keen to shuffle off this mortal coil too soon. And I suspect because he really doesn't know. I suspect he's got that lingering doubt. I've known some very good Christian people who've comforted others on their deathbed, and that's a very lovely thing to do, and talked about faith, and they were going to God and blah, blah, but when it came to their own time, there's no way they wanted to go. They did everything they could to keep going on earth. So, and what made me think is that really they were unsure, they were unsure about death, and they weren't so certain of heaven and that sort of things, which is, it's a scary thought. I believe it, even though, I believe it's nothing. It's still a very strange thing. And you can be comforted to think, well, before you were born, you didn't know anything. It didn't seem to worry you. And you just go back to that. But isn't that strange? Everything you've known, there's just nothing. And even though I would like to think there is something, that's not justification. That's not evidence. Where did Sandra move to? Said Missing Mod. I don't know if she went initially back to her hometown, because she's got relatives there. I forgot where she came. Remember, because the pastor of our church, Kent, asked, what did you when he was doing the checklist as you do. You meet someone online within a week, you've got the hots for them and thinking of marrying them, so you produce your Hovnd list, big heart, that's a cute face, can sing, ticks all that off, and pastor's approval, ticks that off, and then previous husband's permission certificate. So he just happened to be there. The previous husband just happened to turn up and gave him Kent's blessing, his blessing, which was a remarkable story of coincidence, often found only in fairy tales. But I couldn't possibly say. It could be the new sort of Sleeping Beauty story. Forget telling your kids Sleeping Beauty and waking up and marrying a handsome prince and all that sort of thing. Tell them the story of Kent meeting Sandra. Yeah, that's a great story. Yes. Oh, yes. Well, I went to see her at her house, and her previous husband, he hardly ever visits, but he just happened to be there. He had woken up from a long slumber, and he happened to be there, and he happened to give his blessing. Well, I suppose it meant he had to stop paying any support payments if she married again. But it's a very cynical thing for me to say. I couldn't, Yeah, so come on, Dan, get your ass into gear, or I'll start talking about the use of immigrant labor in landscaping businesses. So you don't want me to do that, so come on. Claude Maud says that I'm so innocent but bad at the same time. It's funny. Yes, I'm quite sure how innocent I really am, but it's all fun. Yes, in fact, I think that could be a good project for the Claude, to come up with a list of fairy tale stories that you can read to your kids about Kent Hovnd and his the 4 wives. Yeah, that would be, yeah. And unfortunately, it might traumatize some of them. No, I didn't know what bumping uglies was. You'd have to remind me. You did say to me, but I've now forgotten. So you'd have to say what bumping uglies is. It's not a term that I've heard. I've heard of fuglies, which means flippin' ugly. That's a fugly. But no, bumping fuglies. I presume it's having some sort of relationship with anybody. And perhaps, if you're a drinker and obviously, which Kent is, Kent doesn't. So, Kent would never be accused of having beer goggles. Do you know what beer goggles are? Do you know what beer glasses or beer goggles are? Yeah, that's when you're drunk and you suddenly see through your drunkenness as a woman that you think is just so beautiful. Anyway, when you wake up in the morning and you take a look, because you've been a bit naughty and broken, the law about not sleeping with someone till you're married to them. Anyway, you wake up in the morning and you look next to you what's on the pillow and you go, oh my God. And your arm is trapped. Get this, missing mod. Your arm is trapped under the pillow. So you can't, she's got a head on the pillow. Your arm's trapped under there. You gnaw your own arm off. You gnaw your own arm off to get out rather than wake up this beer goggles person. Yes, yes. Mod, you're right. Great minds think alike. Oh my God. Oh dear. Fortunately, it's never happened to me because I was, as Kent says, he was a virgin on his honeymoon, and some wag in one of the comments pointed out that he was a virgin on a quarter of his honeymoons. I thought that was quite funny as well. This is turning into the Claude comedy show. Well, I hope it's at least a bit more funny than the comedian on Kent's. Yeah, oh dear, I don't want to repeat myself, but I will repeat myself by saying I felt sorry for him because he was trying. He was trying. Their jokes were contrived, but he was trying, and it was like sitting there. You couldn't see the audience, not a titter, not a word, and as though they're sitting with their arms folded, sort of going, just not getting it all. Now Dan is scared. There's no need to be, Dan. If you have married to an Asian wife, you will know that there's nothing to be scared of with the Claude, because the Claude is nothing compared to an Asian wife when that wife goes off. Because what happens is that they can appear, and I'm sure that's what, you went to the Philippines, beautiful lady, lovely lady, and appeared submissive. But once they're married to you, they become the boss. And if you do anything wrong, you get put in your place very quickly. And it's nothing. Therefore, it makes the Claude is soft compared. The Claude is soft compared to that. So I'm sure you can come on and handle yourself quite well. Claude has woken up with multiple arms. Well, it's probably, you'd say he's woken up multiple times with his arm trapped. Yeah. But I've only ever had, well, I presume Dan is speaking from experience. He has probably had two pillow either side and a head on each of those pillows. Well, I don't do that type of thing. One woman is enough for me, so I'm not trapped with both my arms, gnawing both arms off. No, that's a very Dan thing to do. Oh dear. All women, yes, that's probably right. Yes, the exterior, that calm exterior, of that visage of beauty, the butter would not melt in her mouth, then turning into the vituperative tarantula. Of course, I'm only really joking here because I'd begin to sound like Kent with his horrible jokes about women. I don't want to do that. That's very good, Mod. Mod says he asked for his wife's arm in marriage. Oh, there was one or two other parts involved too, but we won't go there. Yeah, we won't go there. Yeah. I've always said that to the joke, asking the father for, could Mr. Whatever, could I have your daughter's hand in marriage? I want a bit more than her hand. It's a really strange sort of a saying, as far as I can see. That's another point in Billy's video, because Kent says that he said all these women do wrong to him, these wives leave him for no reason at all. So he shows a clip of Kent saying that, and about he'd lost just about everything that was important to him in his life, and his son-in-law died in his arms. And it's true that his son-in-law, the one that was on America's videos, Funniest Home Videos, he did sadly pass away from cancer. But Kent has to make it about him. He passed away in my arms. I've lost everything. Really, I would have thought that he would have passed away in the arms of his wife. I really, and Billy doubts that story. And if he did, that might be nice. But wouldn't you want to pass away in the arms of your loving wife than a smart-ass father-in-law? I don't know. Maybe I'm picking on a minor point. So I don't, because I do feel desperately sorry. That was a sad case. So, But Kent, during the telling of the story, he just happens to say that it was on America's funniest home videos. He doesn't have a lot of taste, does he? Does he? Kent, he doesn't have a lot of good taste. You know, me talking about that. Yeah, in my view. Yeah, it depends who the wife is, missing my. Well, I was in the early stages of their marriage. So I think probably the honeymoon was still on. I know it takes the gloss can come off things as time proceeds. I'm just going to see what else I want to talk about. Is there anything there? And I've got. Let's have a look. Yes, I did put up. Yep, I did put up the comedy one in full. I'll probably put some shorts of that as well. And I did put a clip up where Kent says he hasn't had one in months. I'll leave you to guess what he means. I don't think it's what I'm thinking of, but I've sowed that seed. And then he's got this comedian talks about he goes to where it is, some country with a high altitude, and he can hardly talk because he's breathing so hard because of the high altitude. So he does that, and then I just put that alongside of the clip after that of Kent breathing heavily, and I just do that as a contrast, a little bit naughty. I've got one up about Kent not having any math or science qualifications whatsoever, and I stand by that. And then I've got one, Kent Hovnd whack a baby theist or a babe theist, which is quite a good one because it's got, happy is the man who's dashing his little one's brains out on the rocks or something. Just bizarre Bible verse. And even Kent does a bit of a double take to that. So, this is this loving God he's talking about. So I've converted it into whack a baby theist. There's one where he's talking about how great the new secretaries are. So I've put a clip up about him replacing his wives with the new secretaries. And then there was one where he says, I don't know if you saw that, Bod. He says, when I've got a secretary, I don't want her to ask. Nobody should question me. You just do what I say. Do what I say. You don't need to understand. Just do what I say. Whereas I always think it's best to have, if you have someone even working with you as a secretary and they understand, they do their job a whole lot better. Because if you make a mistake, they can pick up on that. They get things right. If, they know the context. Well, Kent is shooting his mouth off saying, I don't want anybody like that. And I think the same with his wife. So my video clip says, why Kent Hovnd's and wives and secretaries all leave. And I've got him saying that. So, Then there's one about going on and on about it being a honeymoon on his, being a honeymoon on his virgin. Sorry, yeah, a virgin on his honeymoon. Well, at least the first one, as you say, it was a quarter of them. So, yeah, I've done. That's quite a funny one as well. So, yeah, and there's another one where he said that all these women have left him for no apparent reason. So, Maud was on Discord for a while, so she's done for the night. Dan's voice would probably help. Yeah, well, true, Claude. Everything I say is true, Maud. I'm the oracle. Well, that's one word people have called me. Called something that sounds a bit like R and ending with hole. But oracle I vastly prefer. I think that's a much more accurate description of the Claude. Well, in a few minutes I will wind the show up because it's getting a bit it's time, and I realize that probably now for most of the audience in the Americas it's rather late in the evening and you probably need to get your sleep. whereas it's the middle of the day for me, so I am raring to go. I'll have to then wait for Dan. Dan, I don't know if you're going to be doing a show again on Sunday or whatever. It seems that a lot of those guys' shows have been cancelled. The only ones that get any views are the ones about Mr. Wyatt, the fraud. But anyway, but I do enjoy your shows, Dan. So if you do want to go on, but just make sure that I'm unblocked because it appears that nobody sees my comments. So you'll have to do your best there with your technical skills as the president and unblock the Claude. Um, yes, so I wonder what we could call Dan's show. The Dan Posey Sunday Special. Called Doing It with Dan. Would that be Doing It with Dan? Yeah, that would be quite good. The Best Posy-ition. Yeah, the best position. Posy-ition, we'll call it. Yeah. God approves of that one. There's other things he doesn't like. Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, we won't go. You won't go there. Of course, I can only assume that the missionary position is named after what God would think was right. But we've got no real evidence for that. We don't know if, well, I presume reverse cowgirl wasn't called that in those days. That was probably something invented in Texas, I imagine. Missing Mod would probably know, being an American. But yes, I don't know how that all sort of thing worked. I think half the time they didn't, the woman didn't really know. It was taken by surprise. It was all a big shock on their wedding night. And in those days, of course, they married quite young, which is a bit of a tragedy from our point of view. But we're judging by our modern way of thinking, which is totally different to in Bible times. Oh my God. I think Claude is yawning too. So, look, yes, I was, I'll go back and listen to the full mod sort of semi-live show, I suppose, now. And I'll say goodbye to everybody and Modern Southern Belle. Yeah. Are those positions, Dan? The modern one and the Southern Belle. What the Southern Belle position? I can't think what that would be. You wear lots of frilly stuff, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Enough speculation. Without, I need someone who knows more than me to come on and talk about these things as far as Americans go. So I'm going to say good night. Good night to the audience. And yeah. Big Bad Mama, that's good. They released you to, you could tell me. Big Bad Mama, it was a last minute thing. I thought that Mod show was a bit different, and I was so disappointed when I sort of ended and I couldn't get on, and I was right in the mood. So I came on. I've done a bit of rambling now, and I'm going to go back and listen to Truck Driving Billy's show. It's only half an hour. It's great. It makes some wonderful points. Dan, don't let Stephen hear it. It's not so good for him. But Stephen's probably busy looking after his kids anyway, isn't he? Or sending support in. I don't know. Anyway, okay, so I'm going to say good night and good night to Dan, Missing Mod, and Big Bad Mama. Over and out.